That's what happens with infant mice. After being fed MSG, they show no signs of mental damage until they're older and begin to fail at complex tasks. Bluntly put, they become stupid. And humans are 5 times more sensitive to MSG than mice. Infants even more so. Blaylock believes the entire education system suffers as a result, even the ability of students to get along with each other. But what about MSG's impact on brain afflictions in older adults? Blaylock says MSG may only be a contributing factor in starting brain diseases, but it definitely can make major neurological afflictions worse. Alzheimer's disease, ALS, sometimes called Lou Gehrig's disease, multiple sclerosis, strokes, Parkinson's disease. They all involve excitotoxins doing harm. Blaylock has written the only book on excitotoxins for the general public. He's updated that information in a book on health and nutrition secrets. He says the key is staying away from MSG. But that's not as easy as it sounds.
It's in all sorts of commercially processed food products that wouldn't taste like much if they didn't have this flavor enhancer added to them. And it's not always labeled as MSG or monosodium glutamate. It's labeled as hydrolyzed protein or natural flavors, and you'd never suspect it.
But Strauss does suspect it. He and his wife have learned the names that hide MSG.
Learning how to do the grocery shopping, reading labels, knowing what types of food to choose, what types of food not to choose.
Of course, any ingredient with the word glutamate, plus aspartame, autolyzed yeast, broth, caseinate, hydrolyzed proteins such as hydrolyzed soy. And for the public, Blaylock says there's a simple truth. Avoiding MSG could be the best thing you'll ever do for your brain. And he adds, don't be surprised when medical organizations and government agencies defend MSG as safe. He says they simply don't understand the complex vulnerability of the brain. Galen Tethrow, CBN News.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're not here to scare you, but we sure are here to warn you, and Galen is here with us. Galen, this is an absolute horrible, frightening report.
It is, and it's much worse than we originally thought. You know, years ago we discussed these topics, but the research is showing more and more problems, more and more areas of the body, and so everyone is vulnerable in a sense.
Does MSG trigger an appetite response where people want to eat more food if it's flavored with MSG?
Yeah, it does. There's basically a drug effect on the tongue. It's not a true flavor in a sense. And so they do want to eat more. And that's partly because of the direct taste effect. It's also partly what it does to the brain.
Does the MSG make people fat directly, or is it because it triggers more desire to eat food?
Well, it's really a secondary effect. It's partly the food and partly that the hormones are messed up in the body, including leptin, which is, there's been a lot of discussion about that.
Well, Galen, if a nursing mother, not the nursing mother, but a pregnant woman, you think Campbell's, chicken, and herbs. I mean, how safe and how wonderful could it be if you're pregnant to eat something like this?
Oh, it sounds just delightful on the surface, but that baby, who's very tiny, is getting a larger dose than the mother is getting. And
what that research that Dr. Blaylock was saying is that it starts out you don't notice it, but when the child gets to 8, 9, 10 years old, that its brain isn't functioning, it's stupid.
That's right. You don't notice these things because the child isn't faced with complex tasks. When they start speaking, when they start going to school, sometimes it's that late before you notice they can't do these complex tasks as well, or sometimes at all.
But the ADD, which is so prevalent today, they hit the kids with Ritalin, and that's supposed to be the answer. But is ADD caused by this, you think?
It's part of the cause, because it can cause miswiring of the brain from early on, from the womb, in early age, and beyond.
So I held this up, and we had a little hard time with the Japanese. Ajinomoto. Ajinomoto. And monosodium glutamate. And is that what does that mean, Ajinomoto?
The essence of taste. That's the Japanese name for MSG, and that's the name of the company. But this is made right here in the United States.
So they put this in everything, essentially.
Well, different forms of it. See, that's the tricky part. Right. Sometimes it's added directly as this, and then it's labeled. You see monosodium glutamate. But it's portions of autolyzed yeast extract and hydrolyzed protein and broth. It sounds all okay.
Broth?
Broth can. It's not always. See, that's because the government hasn't required proper labeling. Well, we don't even know. So are you going to take something that may harm you, or are you going to say, well, I'm going to avoid that product? You probably are going to...
I mean, you have got to be a food detective to figure... Well, hydrolyzed protein sounds pretty benign.
It does. We're all supposed to get protein, right? We're supposed to maybe lower our carbs and increase protein, but unfortunately, a lot of the proteins in all kinds of things, energy bars, etc., are broken down proteins releasing this glutamate and related substances.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking about NutraSweet and what a devastating effect that has on memory and on brain function. That's another excitotoxin. But this thing is serious. I know it's a pain in the neck to look at the fine print on a box of Knorr's tomato and basil soup that you add water to, and you think, well, isn't this going to be wonderful? And yes.
People shouldn't be discouraged, because the fact is, when I learned about this stuff, we went through the grocery, and sometimes there was two products, same thing, next to each other. One did and one didn't. So you just kind of develop your system. Once you have a system, you can go through your grocery pretty safely.
Well, I got all these things out of my own kitchen cabinet that my sweet wife had brought home. And I think these are all destined for the garbage can. But, ladies and gentlemen, if enough consumers begin to object to this, then the manufacturers will find some other way of making their food taste good. We've got two more of these pieces coming up.
Yes, we sure do. We're going to talk about heart disease, sudden death heart attack included, and cancer. This stuff acts like fertilizer for cancer. And our final story then is about how do you navigate all this.
Well, things that go bump in the night. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got more information on MSG. You can get it by going to our website, cbn.com.